Welcome to the Awakening Potential podcast, a platform which is dedicated to uncovering the extraordinary within the ordinary. Join us on the journey of self-discovery, personal growth, and inspiring transformation as we dive deep into the stories and experiences of everyday individuals who have turned their lives into remarkable tales of achievement. Our mission is to ignite the potential and empower you to reach your heights in your own life through powerful narratives, life-changing experiences, and profound insights. We aim to spark the fire of ignition within our listeners, motivating them to take positive action and awaken their inner hero. Today, I'm joined by the lovely Jeanine Kim, the mystic, who's a true luminary in the world of spiritual holistic healing. And she's going to be sharing some of her invaluable wisdom and life-changing moments. So get ready to awaken your potential as we embark on this valuable time to be here with us all. So thank you, Jeanine. Welcome.
Thank you. You're so welcome. I really appreciate being here today with you and your listeners, Karen. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Jeanine, I'm really curious, being a mystic sounds very mystical anywhere. What got you into that? Like, what was that big moment for you that really awakened that portion of the journey for you? And
You
what is
know,
it? Why don't you
and
explain what it is? So this
what
way,
is the mystic, right? Like,
yeah.
what is it? Okay, well, gosh, those are great questions. A mystic, I call myself a mystic because it incorporates all the things that I am and all the things that I do, and that my focus is kind of driven from more of a connection to the unknown. Mystic is kind of short for mysterious, it's like the unknown. But I do so many things. Like it's the astrology, I'm an intuitive, I'm a medium, I'm a holistic health practitioner, yogi. And instead of having like all those words, the things that I've done on the back, I call it a mystic. And I approach spirit first with all that I do, not just with work and with my life. And so that is, to me, the meaning of mystic. But I've been this way my whole life. I've been intuitive when I was young, but growing up in a south side of Chicago, very Catholic family, born in the late 60s. I was born in 1967 and living through the 70s. All these little intuitive bits that wanted to come up and out, it did had no place to land. Nobody could really reflect that back to me, so I kind of tucked it on in.
Right.
So fast forward to my late teens, early 20s, I had to move out of my home because it was just not a healthy environment at all for me. And I started working.
Mhm.
But the lifestyle I was living, the food I was eating, like all I could afford because I was very broke, just fast foods and the lifestyle I was leading, my body couldn't take it anymore. My body couldn't. And I'm sensitive as it is. I couldn't, I was smoking with my friends. I couldn't smoke. I couldn't drink. I couldn't eat McDonald's, Taco Bell, like those things my body was rejecting and I got sick. So in that journey back, I started leaning more into a holistic nature. I became a vegetarian in the 90s. Not that that's the answer because I eat meat now, but it was process. It was on my way. I began picking up yoga in the early 90s and reading all these amazing books like Norman Vincent Peale, Gary Zukov. And then it led me to really, it felt so true to me. It started pouring out of my system. And I was in the financial industry at the time, and it just toxic environment, toxic financial industry in the 90s. Even probably, it's just like those bad movies you see. And so before you know it, I couldn't live that way anymore. It was a different truth altogether. And I'm like, you know what? And I started to go to school at night to become a massage therapist. And then I left that industry altogether. I just left it. And I'm like, I'm going to do this full time. And that happened in the late 90s, early 2000s. And that's it. I transformed my life. And now I've been living this way, teaching others how to make that crossover, holding space for them for almost 30 years. So it's been a life of walking the talk. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm willing to bet there were a lot of challenges or um, roadblocks along the way. What were some of the roadblocks, for those that are listening and want to lead an extraordinary life and not really feeling that they are at this point, and they really are, but they haven't really discovered it yet? What would be some of the things that you had to overcome, and how did you overcome them?
That's such a great question. It's in the end, in hindsight, and then I'll circle back around, but in hindsight, it's knowing to trust the call of your truth
Exactly.
above all else. And
Absolutely.
you are spot on. It was not easy. I lost family,
Mhm.
friends, my
Yeah.
whole my whole life structure that was formed by
Mhm.
the old me was gone. And even I was concerned about the money.
Mhm.
It's one thing to talk all these things, but then when I left that industry, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go like do massage now, which I'm gonna teach yoga. And I was definitely making a whole lot more money and it was consistent. But what is nurturing? The money nourished me on some level, and I'm right there with the rest of you. Like I know that money is necessary, but
Yeah.
my well-being, the other parts of me were not nourished or nurtured at all. So I chose myself. And when I did it, it's like the universe just over time, you come together, and now I'm doing better than I did when I was in the financial industry, and my life is my own. I met a different man. And a divorce had happened from my previous husband, and my current husband and I have been together 20 years. We have two
Mhm.
children, and
Yes.
synchronicity fell into place when I trusted the hardest thing, trust the unknown that
Absolutely.
feels so true to your soul. That's for sure. Yeah.
The feels. I love the feels, we
The
talk.
feels. Yes. That's exactly what that is.
Yes, absolutely. And it really is a space of surrender. What I heard in your conversation as well, Jeanine, is you shed the old identity to step into your truth, the enhanced version, enhanced identity of who you are today. Uh, it's a process, right? It's not something that you just go, okay, I'm going to take this off and start new. What was that like for you when you look back on who you've become from where you are? What was that like for you?
That was a total free fall. It was like Jerry Maguire. If anybody's seen that movie,
Oh, excuse me.
bless you, bless you.
Thank you.
Where,
Allergy season here.
oh, I know ours is coming right around the corner up in Santa Fe. But it was very much like the Jerry Maguire movie where he just kind of leaves and you hear like Tom Petty singing Free Falling. It was really just
Excuse me.
moments of trust. Bless you.
Yeah, thank
It
you.
was huge moments of trust, and that trust is scary. It's so easy for most people to say that I can't trust my truth because when I lean into it, when I lean into my truth, bad things happen.
Right.
And what I love to share with them is what is bad? Yes, relationships might break down. Yep. You might lose your job or go elsewhere when you bring a truth forward, but that's the truth comes from spirit, creator, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it. And it needs to break some things down. It's very much like redoing your kitchen. So I basically had to live in the rubble of redoing my own personal identity kitchen. You live in the rubble, you don't know where to go, but
Exactly.
it rebuilds and you get the better picture when you're done.
Absolutely. And I love the way you say it is rebuilding the rubble. So many people that I talk to in a coaching practice, the fear really holds them back. Oh, I too come from a divorce relationship, and I had to let go of the fear in order to move forward. And a lot of people are so stuck in it, which keeps them from a future that they might actually enjoy and find great depth in. What was that like for you? I'm just curious. We all have our challenges with that.
Right. Oh, it was really tricky. I was in my 30s when I got divorced, and all my friends that I grew up with and my family, they were having babies, they were settling their lives, and the people that I come from, divorce wasn't something looked upon that well. and I was in an unknown state. And oh my gosh, you want to do massage? That's so weird. Because this is like the late 90s. They thought it
Right.
was like touch was only something that you do in the bedroom. Where,
Right.
I mean, that's like the mentality of the people that I grew up with. And this is the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. Nobody talked about it like this. There wasn't the internet. I was just following a calling. And so it takes a lot of courage to be who you are. And I was eating organic, ordering these foods and products online because there wasn't organic stores, drinking kombucha. I remember getting made fun of by my family.
Yeah.
Fermented tea, like just constant ridicule. And it's hard. It's hard because you're challenging, and instead of saying challenging, I love to say the word, you're inviting the world around you
Exactly.
to follow their own truth as well.
Mhm.
And it's a survival mechanism. So when they don't want to, people don't want to, you're gonna get pushback.
Exactly.
But the way I see it is, if you get that pushback and if you look at it like, oh, this means I am on the right track, and you're stretching your faith, you just got to trust it and say, my truth means more to me than
Exactly.
the same mundane stuff I'm living now that brings no joy to my life whatsoever.
Absolutely. I remember it was like my dark night of the soul, and we all have the dark night of the soul. It was
Dark
somewhere
night.
along the way. And I just remember one night, it was probably the very first time I ever got on my hands and knees and prayed. And it was like, okay, God, there's got to be something better. And if I'm meant to stay in this, then let me, let it work out or show me the way kind of thing. And I remember getting into bed and closing my eyes, and in that twilight sleep, I remember opening the door. And as I'm opening the door, there was this dark abyss. And I would step into it and the door slams behind me. And all of a sudden it was like I felt myself falling, falling, falling. But yet I had the trust I was going to land on my feet. And it was
Mm.
knowing that I was going to be okay. Have you ever had an experience like that?
Completely. You know what you're reminding me of when you're saying that? That is so scary. I feel you. You know what that is? That's like, fighter pilots when they take the plane to the edge, like you're not supposed to go any further, but they want to see how far they can go. Doesn't it feel like we're stretching the edge of who we are? Like we're really
Taking a
um
risk. Yeah.
shaking and things are flying off and it's like, oh my gosh, am I going to make it out? And then you do, and then you see who you are. And I have had a moment like that. It was I've had many moments like that. So it was so much so where again, when I had that divorce, some of my family members, they're like, we don't want you to talk to the kids anymore because you're such a bad influence. And it was like, all right. I mean, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I chose a truth. Like I wasn't, I was going to healing school. I got a nose ring at the time, this is kind of wild back in early
Yeah.
2000s. Tattoos for a woman back then. They're like, what are you doing? You're you're making a joke of your life. And I just plus I'm adopted. So when I would hear them saying this, I have this other deeper trigger of now they're not going to love me. Now they're, my biological mother, and I know that isn't the case mentally, but there's this something inside of us adopted people. I feel we're just even perhaps sometimes more sensitive to that. And so I just wanted to cling to them. There's nothing more that I wanted but to be
Right.
a part of that group. And I've had to step away because it's so hard. And it still lingers because, you want to cry about it every day. You love them so much, but when there's harshness coming at you because they
Yeah.
don't get it, it's you can't live in that. So it's constantly for me trusting spirit and trusting that my truth is coming from somewhere that is really a message to everybody and nourishing me greater than those people ever could.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I really honor you and acknowledge you for stepping into your truth. And I know it's not the easiest thing in the world to do.
Right.
But once we do, describe what it's like on the other side when you step over that comfort zone and listening to other people who have their thoughts, feelings, and opinions and want to take them, pull you into their world, so to speak. It's like, you know,
Oh my God, that's exactly what it is.
yeah.
It feels like total freedom. And for me, now that I'm on the other side, not that I'm not still triggered on occasion, but for the most part, when I'm on the other side and I see people trying to pull me back in, instead of me seeing it like something wrong with me, and what I start to see when I look at them is like, oh my gosh, they have an opportunity to step into their own truth, but it's so scary for them. They will do anything to keep status quo within themselves. So I feel for them now. You know what I'm saying? I really do.
Yeah.
And it's because you could tell they just want to break through. And there's a saying that people don't see you as you are, they see you as they are. And
Yeah.
it's really scary, but it's the most freeing. And I have so much synchronicity in my life. I sleep, my nervous system is different.
Mhm.
The people I have met, my husband, the synchronicity in meeting him and my children, it's like I stepped into a whole different timeline that was just waiting for me to have the courage to show up. And my
Oh,
life is greater now. I see now too, and you probably have this, that if I would have kept those people in my life or those situations, it would not be able to sustain
exactly.
where I'm at. There's just no way. There's
Yeah.
no way at all.
Yeah, it keeps you held back, and that's when I'm like, because
Yeah.
I experienced that as well, and so I totally get it. So, what pearls of wisdom can you give to the audience, the listening audience, that you've learned, some of the lessons that you've learned along the way that might really support our listeners?
There is a spectrum of the word selfish. There isn't just one way.
Love it. Yep.
So, what I mean by that is sometimes people say, oh gosh, you're so selfish. And before I'd be like, no, I'm not. Like, I get so panicked that somebody called me that, God forbid. And because I was looking at it just from one view perspective, but there's a spectrum to everything. And so
Yeah.
the way I see it now, I'm like, thank you. Yes. Like it's that good old saying, you got to put the mask on yourself first before you put on the child. You got to fill up the well before you share with another. And when you share with another from a place of fullness and self fullness, you
Mhm.
took a moment to take care of you. That's the
Exactly.
only way you could really serve. When we serve from a place of emptiness, it's more like we're a slave or a servant because we're empty.
Yeah.
And that then we get stuck in a cycle of fear. And like we have to do it to be anybody or to have an identity or to be accepted. But when we're full and we take care of ourselves, that frequency also passes on to the others that we're with. So if I were going to give a pearl of wisdom, fill yourself up, trust what that means. And even the people around you will start reflecting that fullness as well.
I love
You know,
that.
you find that too,
Oh, absolutely.
right? Like they get it.
Yeah.
They get it.
Yeah. Like attracts like, right?
Like it. Yep.
Everything is energy. So the frequency and vibration of which we speak, right, really has an impact on not just on our words, but those around us. And that's where I love this work as a holistic healer myself. And we mentioned at the beginning that you were a spiritual holistic healer. What does that look like for the listening audience? And all of your information will be in the show notes for anybody that wants to reach out. But just give a little overview, if you would, like where it's all taking you now and what you're doing in that healing modality.
Well, right now I've really been deep diving on bridging the gap
Mm.
for many people between between science and spirituality. I'm working with somebody right now, Dr. Jeffrey Tarrant, who scans my brain and finds where we're all psychic in our brain. And I truly am a believer that how I am, I'm just a canary in the coal mine. And when we really want to become healthy as a culture, it's
Mm.
about taking care of all four aspects of ourself, not
Yeah.
just the mindset, not just a couple herbs. It's about, have you gone to the emotion, and not just talking about it, but reactivating the nervous system. And
Yes.
so my passion now is getting everybody regulated
Yeah.
to their own story, their own truth, not the truth little t that's been laid out in front of each of us, that we must follow this blueprint. And so this is where I take it in my intuitive self, my intuitive work. I get higher messages from spirit for bigger story for the people, and then I take all my holistic work and I formulate a program for them, or some of the trauma they need to release, maybe even from other lifetimes. Or if you don't believe in that, from ancestry. So
Right.
it's my passion to empower people to know that, we are all like this, and the power's on the inside. The authority is not out there at
Yeah,
all.
love that, love that. We're very aligned in a lot of what we do. We all have some sort of similarities in some way, shape, or form, I believe, seems to me. And we just do it, we deliver it differently, but we're still the same because we all have that. For me, it's always about getting back to love. And what does that look like in the healing journey? And that's exactly what you just spoke into. And I love that. And I really honor you for the work that you're doing and who you are for all of us in the world. So I thank you. Is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with before we part ways?
All I love to say to my clients mostly is trust the empty. Make friends with empty. Empty is where all the good stuff comes. It's not where nothing is. When you sit there and you let yourself get aligned to it, more messages will come, and good stuff comes from that. So yeah, make friends with empty.
Beautiful. Jeanine, thank you so much for
You're welcome.
giving your time and your talents and your, just being here, being you. So to end with, I just want to remind everybody that the lesson is always, always you have a choice. And to be extraordinary, you have to choose extraordinary. Make it a fabulous day. Till next time, live a awakening potential life. Bye for now.